Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm Smart.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy hump day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy. And
the joylessness
I don't give
of those
a fucking
people.
Blah.
Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
We're gonna go members only.
Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's off. Something's off.
We're going to go members only. Hi.
We're not. No, we're not. We're going to be staying open. How you doing?
I'm okay. The smoke has made its way to us. So
I
now
know it's
everything
skipping
here,
over us right now. We're skipped it with like it's done a skip over. So we don't have it today, but you do, right?
oh, it smells awful here. It's awful. I am completely congested. I feel like I live in LA again because this is what LA smells like on a daily basis.
Ugh.
And like, it's so funny to me whenever I lived there and people would post like gorgeous sunset photos. The reason why the sunset photos look so beautiful in Los Angeles is because of the smog. The smog
Yes.
makes the pictures really beautiful, but you can barely breathe in California.
What's really fun here is that, well, you probably have the same thing. When you have all the smoke, you can actually look directly at the sun because it's just like a cute little
Yeah.
orange blob.
Oh,
It's
sure.
not even like a real thing that will blind you. Although it is very bad for you to look at the sun anyway, from what I understand.
Nexus Lexus says it's all clear today in Canada. Well, thanks.
Not in
We're
Ontario,
getting-
it's not.
Yeah. If you are here on this FRIYAY with us, go ahead and like the video. Help us
Yes.
with the algorithm. On
Like
your way
it.
in, hit that like.
Like it so hard. Like it hard.
So you just had a meeting scheduled. Is that what you're saying? So you have to be out at 9?
I have to be out at 8:50. Well, I could be out at 8:50, 9:30. I just had a meeting pop on my calendar that wasn't there previously for 9 a.m.
Okay.
So, but the good news is we have limited things to talk about anyway. I do want to talk a little bit about Jolene's stream from yesterday, and I do want to talk about what happened in the court yesterday as well.
Yeah, I just finished watching what happened in the court yesterday. That was it was interesting. Even though it was like super short, it was very interesting. Why don't we start off with?
I'm curious. I'm actually dying to know what you thought was interesting about it, so I can't wait to hear about that.
Okay. Why don't we talk quickly about Jolene and what's happening over there in the chaos, and then we'll get into, the real stuff.
Yeah, so Jolene had yesterday one of my favorite streams of all time that she has done. It was,
Really?
oh yeah, it was so funny. She basically acknowledged that there has been some scolding on internet about, how tedious it's become to just see endless clips of Jess Machado, which Jimmy said, and I agree with. I don't have any plans to back off my takes on somebody who's continuing to do things that baffle me. But I do agree that you open Twitter and you only see the same clip 50 times. It's like, okay, like maybe develop other interests in addition to this. I mean, I believe that we also talk about other things besides just this. I believe I also tweet about other things besides just this. Also, I don't necessarily feel like I was being scolded. I think, but Jolene, basically the whole conceit of her stream was that it's a secret and you can't let anybody know you were there because we're not supposed to be talking about this. But then she had a couple of incredible bits. One of which was she Jess, she played a clip in which Jess mentioned her roller skates again, and she slunk off the mic and basically performed an opera and unplugged all the lights in her studio and went and sat on the shelf behind her microphone in abject misery. And it was deeply, deeply funny. But what I appreciated most about it was that she played something that I had heard about but didn't want to watch. And sometimes watching her watch the thing is exactly the right lens through which to watch it, because you feel like you're crazy if you just see it for yourself, or you feel like
I made the mistake of just watching it, by the way. I watched well, I saw the clip and I was like, everyone's talking about she's having like a mental health break, and I was like, do I really want to watch this? I feel like, you know, when Lindsay Gaetani was making videos and she maybe had a few drinks before she did the videos, and I always felt uncomfortable about it because it's like watching somebody in a very weak moment. And though I am no fan of J7, I hate to see people grasping at straws by because at the end of the day, I think that they're trying to connect. That's why they're on video. That's why they're talking into the ether. And so it's hard for me to watch people fall apart online. It's really difficult to watch. It's like a train wreck that you can't look away from. And at the end of the day, everyone is human. And we make mistakes and we do stupid things. And watching, like when I do stupid things, I usually handle it privately. At least I try to, unless it's funny. And then if it's funny, I'll do it. I'll be online. But if it's not, then, you know, I just, it bothers me to see people falling apart. So.
Yeah, I don't think so. By the way, yes, I am on my computer mic. I can try a different couple mics if you want to see which one's the best. So this is number one. This is number one. This would be that's through my webcam. This is number two.
No,
through my AirPods. I hate the way that sounds.
One.
I know. And this is number three, which is my laptop mic. So one or three. One or number three. Number one or number three.
I think one, in my opinion.
I know. I'm an audio person. Webcams have better mics than computers do. Anyway, so I don't think this is J7 falling apart. I think this is who J7 is. So there's this guy named Kane who has the nickname Sad Dad, who has been streaming with her, and I haven't watched any of her streams except on clips through other people's stuff. And Turtle Boy made the very funny observation that Sad Dad's only role when he's with her is just to sort of like egg her on, which is just, you know, she'll say something and he'll be like, really? Or what else? And it's actually objectively is funny when somebody is sitting with somebody unhinged and they're just basically getting to be more unhinged. But they were streaming together the other day, and she brought up Alex Jones, and she started talking about all the crisis actors at Sandy Hook. And he was like, no. And she then doubled and tripled down on the crisis actors at Sandy Hook. And he was like, no. And she abruptly ended the stream.
Yes.
So the issue is that later on Jess's stream, Jess said, listen, so all I saw was an argument between J7 and Kane. They're just having a dispute. And then Kane went on Lauren's show and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that is not what happened. What happened is you have a lunatic who had their lunacy on full display.
Yeah.
And now everybody is acting as if it was just some sort of weird moment where they had a disagreement and things went around. No. Like, there are things in our world that are, you know, on the political spectrum, on the conspiracy theory spectrum, on the everything spectrum, that are well within the realm of it's not normal, it's not what I would say, it's not reasonable, but it is now accepted, like this is part of the discourse, right?
Yes.
Calling the Sandy Hook parents crisis actors and saying that the deaths, the murders of those children were fake.
Yeah. The fact that we're even talking about it is insane to me.
Is in my mind like it is the worst. It's one of the worst things you can say. And the fact that these parents have won gajillions of dollars in court because that was said. Even somebody on Twitter said to me when I tweeted about this, yeah, but those parents sure seemed to have a lot of time to sue people
I
if they
saw
were
that.
grieving.
I was like, come on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So it's lunacy. It's absolute lunacy. And anybody who can sort of characterize that as a simple dispute is out of their goddamn mind. When is enough enough? When is enough enough? You call Baker a pervert, whatever, let him defend himself. I don't care. This is not fucking acceptable. And I was completely shocked by it, but also very relieved to watch it through the Jolene of Lenses show.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked by it. I mean, the political discourse that's been going on in our country for the past 10 years has created folks like J7 and Jess Machado. And I feel like this is where the confirmation bias comes in. You know, certain groups have gone off, and I'm not talking just about the right. I'm also talking about the left. Alex Jones has been a figure in our media for a very long time, and he's been saying a lot of really stupid shit for a really long time. Stuff that's not founded, not based in fact. Just keep in mind, he had millions of followers who tuned in and listened to him speak and scream at them every single day for many, 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 many years. And he finally went overboard. You know, Alex Jones reminds me of the Westboro Baptist Church. Just like one man, and they're a whole group of people. But I believe in, free speech. I believe in the First Amendment. But when you are trying to create a government conspiracy that it was a false flag at Sandy Hook. First of all, the fact that you can't ask yourself a very realistic question as to why. Why would they have done that?
But he knew it wasn't true. But the problem is because he said it, people now think it is true.
But it's the same reason
faith. The worst faith.
People also believe that the Holocaust never happened, Rebecca. That we can't help stupid. That's the problem. And unfortunately, there's, in my opinion, a certain group of people in this country that have glommed on to a certain political party that has told them, we like our followers stupid. And they don't seem to think that that's a problem. They don't understand that they're the stupid ones following, dear leader. And it has trickled down into Jess Machado and J7. And we can talk about Pizzagate. We can talk about all these things. There was a kernel of truth to Pizzagate, but the way that story was told was to attack one political party over the other and turn everyone into PDF files. So the problem is that in the past decade, our media system, the reason why we all exist on YouTube right now is because our mainstream media, our legacy media is a joke, and people don't know what to believe anymore. And so they're turning to other sources like Alex Jones, like Tucker Carlson, like, I don't know, I'm trying to pick someone on the left that is that crazy, but in my brain I can't right now. So if you have somebody, let me know. There's a reason why legacy media is failing right now, and it's because oftentimes, like CNN, what used to be MSNBC, Fox News, they are no longer reporting outlets. They are money-making machines, and they go with whatever the trend is. When I hear of some like big news story that's happening, like maybe I'll read it in the New York Times or I'll see it on Twitter or somewhere, and then I see the mainstream media not reporting on it, it tells me one thing, and that's that they are bought and paid for. I think it's an interesting debate to have. I don't even know what happened last night. I didn't watch it, but the president of the United States gave an address last night, and 2 mainstream media outlets didn't cover it.
A lot of them didn't cover it, not just 2, but only 2 are
and I know
yelled at
why. I know why. I know that. I know why they didn't cover it, and it's because they don't want to air lies to the American public. However, in what world are we living where legacy media isn't reporting on the president of the United States giving a speech from
They reported on it. They just didn't air it live. They reported on it a lot. Like NPR is
But
reporting on it this morning
in what world are we living in where a legacy media outlet has not played the president's remarks in a special, speech live? I haven't lived in a world that's ever happened.
Yeah, I think that
I'm not saying I'm not saying it's right, and I'm also not saying that I wanted to hear it. We have the choice to tune in, but it's interesting.
Yeah, so I think that my issue here is that Jess Machado, in talking about these things J7 said, made a very flip, like, I have never been attracted to the extreme right wing conspiracies. I don't blah, 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 blah. That's not me. That's not whatever. But it's not in any way, like, if you hear that, it's like hearing somebody say the N-word. Like, you say, that is not fucking okay. You don't just like say, but that it was mostly a dispute between her and Kate. No, it's a dispute between her and the truth. It's
reality.
A dispute between her and reality. And it's very unhealthy. My issue with the discussion about the media is that we all like it when outlets report something we want to know or that we know is true. Mm-hmm. And we all don't like it when they don't do what we don't want them to do. But if they all did what we wanted them to do, they wouldn't be the media. They would be propaganda. Right. So it's how I it's sort of along the lines of how I feel about our conversation recently about judges. Like, I don't like the erosion of respect of the judiciary. I don't like it. I agree there are some judges who could do better, but I absolutely want to uphold the sanctity of that branch of government because that is the check. The judiciary is our best and most important check. And so when you have a judge in a civil case not ruling the way I'd prefer he rule, to me, like, saying something like judges have too much power, et cetera, to me, that's offensive because I'm like, they don't. They have exactly the amount of power the Constitution of the United States gives them. And what that means is that but they're also human beings. And sometimes they're not going to do stuff that we want them to do. So I have a sense of this, like, we're all unstable in our views on everything. And for the person saying that we are one-sided, it's not one-sided to say that Sandy Hook was not a false flag. That was a lie. It was a disgusting lie. And it was a disgusting lie designed to incite people. That's what it was about. It's designed for that. Ann Coulter is a really good example of somebody who, when people know her personally, I know people who know her personally, and personally, she's not, she tells people that she's playing a character. She doesn't believe a lot of the stuff that she says. It's a performance. It's a performance designed to incite conversation, to divide, to be provocative, to make money, to be famous. It's a performance, and it's a piece of performance art that she believes she's doing. And I would rather, Kevin asked me the question last night, we were taping these other stories, and it was an episode based on Ann Coulter. And he asked, like, would you rather have somebody who really believes the stuff say it, or somebody who is actually smarter than that, doesn't believe the stuff, say it, and is playing a character? I'm like, I'd way rather have someone who really believes it. I would way rather have that, because at least it's intellectually honest. Now, it seems like J7 really does believe this. And if somebody really believes this, they really do need help, and they really do need all this stuff, okay? But we also shouldn't be enabling it. And Jess Machado is enabling it. Yeah. And I don't like that. So anyway.
Harry said, I think they're desperate to keep attention on them. Not even sure they believe it. They just want everyone talking. I assume she believes it, but I do think that that's something that she can say, and she knows that it's going to get her attention. And for the people in the chat who are asking who J7 is, it's Jessica Walsh. I didn't know anything about this woman until Broken Baker. She accused Broken Baker of, I don't even know what she accused him of, because the problem is they never met in person.
She accused him of being a bad, creepy boyfriend, which it seems like they
long distance over. I mean, Broken Baker's in Denmark.
An intercontinental fingering, as
Yeah.
Jolene would likes to describe it.
Exactly. I mean, it's so stupid, but that's who that she's basically a simp for Jess Machado. She has her own show, I guess, where she co-hosts it with a man named Kane, who is notoriously racist. And I think Jolene calls him Sad Dad, and I think Turtle Boy calls him Sad Dad. And they were streaming, and Jess Walsh said that Sandy Hook was basically a false flag operation, and he disagreed with her. They got into a huge argument, or not a huge argument, but she just cut the stream off. I was more concerned about what she did after that, though, Rebecca. That's the video that I saw where it does appear she needs help. And that's when she was physically acting out what she wanted to do to Kane with a pair of scissors. And she said something along the lines of, show me where you're hurt on the doll, you know, like that stupid shit. And then she started stabbing the doll, and she was talking about her violent thoughts and all this crazy shit. And I was just like, this woman needs help. Like,
which Baker has been saying for a month and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. Anyway, mostly folks should watch Jolene's stream from yesterday. She did 2 yesterday. She did one about Big Brother, which I, again, I'm also only watching through Jolene because that's not a show I've ever watched. But also her stream yesterday, Turtle Boy, the Turtle Universe is Healing Itself stream, was so funny. So funny. That's where I started. I really want to recommend the funniness that was yesterday's
Jolene.
stream.
She's so talented. She's so funny. Yes, please go and watch Jolene's stream. Do not go and watch the other shit.
She's mean in exactly the right way.
Yeah, they're melting down, and they're doing it online, and they're doing it for the whole world to see, and it's hard to watch. Yeah. Yes. Did we see Kanoni? No. What happened with Kanoni works nights? Do you know? Did you see anything about Kanoni, Rebecca?
No. Was she on the beach or something? Was she having some having some rosé? Hey, Broken Baker. Having some rosé on the beach.
We were just talking about you, Baker, and your
Baker
situation.
And what Jolene characterizes as intercontinental fingering, which say what you want about that, except for the fact that those are 2 words I never thought I would hear together. And I appreciate the description.
Yeah, the whole thing's gross. I don't like it, although I do love Jolene's content. But sometimes when I'm watching Jolene, I'm like, why are we even talking about these people? Like, what are we doing here? And I get it.
There is a lens through which, like when Turtle Boy and she also did that. Who's that woman with the eyebrows who was claiming to be stalked, but really just didn't like what people were saying about her? No, everyone knows it. Laura Matthias. It's one of these people. So there are some fucking crazy true crime people in the true crime world. I've known this for many years, being a podcaster who talks about podcasts. There are some true crime people. It's like 90% women who insert themselves into legal situations, become friends with the family, go to court, do whatever, and add nothing other than the fact that they're present, and make everything about themselves, become the drama, become part of the drama, all that stuff, which is why, by the way, I am skeptical of the Mandy Matney stuff, because I get a whiff of that in the Mandy
Can we talk
Matney
about
stuff.
this a little bit? You've been getting,
sure.
I mean, just you've put out a few posts on Twitter and on Facebook and things that we've talked about on the show. You've been getting a little bit of heat for some of the things, some of your
I don't mind getting the heat. I really want to know. I am very curious as to what the reporting is besides Mandy Matney's own words that kind of back up all the reasons why she didn't want to do this deposition, which, by the way, it's just a deposition, and she had a lawyer. Like, bring your lawyer. Right. Like, I don't understand. And it has a whiff of the I am the central character thing to me. And if it's not that, I legitimately want to know what it is, because I can't see anything that points to anything that's grounded in like a reasonable thing. So I don't have any reason to dislike Mandy. As you know, I appreciated her reporting on the Murdoch case. She's the reason why we know as much about it as we do. I agree that she's exposed some corruption in South Carolina, all that stuff. That being said, this deposition thing just seems wacky to me. It just seems wacky. And if there's more to it, I really want to know. And everything that everyone's pointing me to, well, on Mandy's podcast, she said, I'm like, right, that's not what I want. I want something that isn't on something that her podcast that she said.
Yeah, so. Mandy's been talking about it too. She's been talking about it in the Facebook group. She's raising money now to fight this. The way I understand it is Mandy felt unsafe, which I don't fault her. She is enemy number one in that area because, I mean, going back to the trial, she was called out by lawyers in court. She was approached by Harpootlian in court. She was, she's had this this podcast for a long time now. She went after the most famous and powerful legal family in that area. She started digging into Stephen Smith's death. All of these things make her an enemy of the state, basically. So I get it. I don't know why she's even there to begin with. I don't know why she has been called for a deposition to begin with. Like that part, I don't even know. So if somebody can enlighten me,
I do.
great.
I
Okay,
know because this is a case around leaked photographs. It's a case around things Mandy has actually reported on and knows inside information about. And so the defendant in that case, in that lawsuit, wanted to depose her about it. The same way they wanted to depose. They might want to depose like a Gretchen Voss, or they might want to, if there's no reporter shield law, but whatever information they think she might have, they want to depose her on. And, I could be called for a deposition on something that I don't want to contribute to, but I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice. Yeah. And I think some of the claims of lack of safety, frankly, are main character energy claims. I really do. Do you really think that a lawyer for a defendant is going to murder her at a deposition or some shit? Of course not. She has someone to bring with her. It's not like she's walking into a cave alone. That's the part I don't understand.
Right. I think that the issue is that she felt unsafe, she said, and she wanted to change venues and they couldn't agree on that. And so I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, and then not showing up for the deposition and then posting about it on social media that she was blatantly flouting the subpoena, basically. That's the way I understand it. If I'm wrong, correct me. But you can't do that. We're in this situation right now with Michael Proctor, where, in my opinion, he went ahead and put himself in a mental health facility because he didn't want to do the deposition with Alan Jackson. And especially because of the timing, his deposition was scheduled for just days after all the text dropped about showing him being a 100% white supremacist, misogynist predator. And so his next move, in my opinion, was to get himself out of there so he didn't have to do this deposition with Alan Jackson. I mean, he didn't know Karen Reed might have been in the room. She probably was in the room. Alan Jackson, everybody asking him questions. And when he did his 4 hours of his deposition, showed up 2 hours late to his deposition, did 4 hours of the deposition, and then apparently had a panic attack and had to go outside. And then someone took a picture of him. When all of that happened, we were all like, he deserves that. He deserves that for who he is and the way he did this and what he did on this case. He did show up for his deposition, but we are in a fight right now, or not we, but they are in a fight right now in court about continuing his deposition. Michael Proctor hasn't been sanctioned in any way. So the idea that, like, the thing I don't know about Mandy Matney was, what was the legal fight before her deposition? Like, what happened there? That's what I want to understand a little bit better. What did they put out a subpoena and then her team fought it?
She didn't show up, and then there was a bunch of hearings about this that I watched.
No, but beforehand.
Okay.
Before, I want to understand what happened, because if they subpoenaed her and her lawyers fought the subpoena before her appearance, what was the back and forth, and what did the judge rule? And once the judge makes a ruling, like we've been saying this for weeks now, once the judge makes a ruling that Michael Proctor has to appear, guess what? He has to appear. If the judge makes a ruling that Colin Albert, who in my opinion tried to escape this whole thing by joining the military, if the judge makes a ruling that Colin Albert has to appear, Colin Albert has to appear. So we're not giving Michael Proctor and Colin Albert any leeway. Why would we give Mandy Matney any leeway on her subpoena? I don't understand.
So Mandy Matney said she wasn't going to go. She did give notice that she wasn't going to go because of safety reasons. My question, Mouse Baranza, I see all your comments. My question isn't whether or not what the process was. My question is, what is the independent reporting on the safety stuff other than the story Mandy Matney is telling? Because we can look at the Colin Albert and Michael Proctor story and we can say, here's what we all saw happened. We understand why Michael Proctor wouldn't want to do this. We understand why Colin Albert wouldn't want to do this. We understand XYZ. It's been reported in the media broadly. Did Mandy Matney really think Dick Harpootlian was going to hurt her? Did she really think that the lawyer for this guy who owns the store, who's already had to pay $15 million, et cetera, is going to hurt? I mean, I guess my issue is if you're fighting a subpoena on the grounds of First Amendment protections for the press, or if you're fighting it on the grounds of I'm not a party to this case, I want to quash it, which I know that she did try to quash it.
Yeah, and
where
she,
does
she lost.
It's the
according to
safety. It's the
Lindsay.
safety question. It's the safety question that comes to mind. It comes for me because there is, and I. Mal, please, Mal Speranza, please send me an email and point me to something to read, to look at, because I spent a long time yesterday looking for it. And the only things I can find are people pointing me to Mandy Matney's podcast herself. Okay. It's the safety question that I have. That excuse is the big one I have questions about. I have very big questions about it. It would be like Michael Proctor saying he didn't feel safe being in a room with Karen Reed. Of course he does. He doesn't feel psychologically safe. Of course not.
Nope.
But he's safe. And Lauren Mathias was not in danger at fucking CrimeCon. She just didn't like this woman. And she said she felt unsafe because of a stalker. Right. So they're saying that the store guy is a stalker. In what way is he a stalker? I guess I'm a little bit jaded about how some people in the true crime community are misusing the word stalking and stalker. Because if he's a stalker, has she reported it to the police? Are there police reports? Has there been an investigation? Or is it a question of like saying the word stalker is supposed to be enough? That's the stuff I just don't understand. And if there's more there, I want to eat my hat on this. I really, really do. I just don't like it when true crime people make themselves a story by claiming to be afraid. I hate that when it's not true. So I just want that to be the case. And if you can point me to something that shows me that's not the case, I'd really appreciate it. So that's all I mean. I just haven't seen anything else other than why she claims she didn't want to go. So
yeah. Let's do a couple of starred comments here. Nurse Mandy 90, thanks for the $5.
Thank you.
Good morning to my favorite duo. Happy FRIYAY. Happy FRIYAY to you. Glad you're here. My 4-year-old is convinced Rebecca is his preschool teacher, Lex said, which is really cute. I love that. And then Quiet Thing says, we've been living in a simulation since 2016. Changed my mind. I'm not going to try. I agree. And then Melanie Fox, thanks for the $5, said, Mel, I posted a video to your ex. It's my father-in-law, a bigot, being interviewed by Jolly Good Ginger. It's pretty funny how uninformed people are. I will check it out. I have not seen it yet, but thank you for letting me know.
I love a bigot. Love a bigot. Gotta love an interview with a bigot.
Oh boy. So we do have a lot going on back to the civil cases. Although, Rebecca, so the Clancy case is happening. The Lindsay Clancy case. Lindsay
Clancy, yes.
Yeah.
Saddest case.
It's starting on Monday. We talked about it months ago. I think I told you about it, what I understood of the story. That case is starting on Monday. I would like to update on it. I think it's an interesting case. I love that Scapiccio has gotten involved in it as well. She's just like, right now, that woman is trying to cure Massachusetts, in my opinion. She is trying to make sure that everybody over there is okay. Sarah, thank you so much for the tip. You're lovely. We appreciate you. So I would suggest, if you're into these court cases that are happening in New England, this is a big one that's coming up. Lindsay Clancy starts on Monday. Cliff Notes version of it, I can't really give a Cliff Notes, but I'll tell you in like 2 minutes. Lindsay Clancy was a mother suffering postpartum. She had three very young children. She reported to her doctors and to everybody else that she was having postpartum. They diagnosed her with postpartum depression. It turns out she was actually suffering postpartum psychosis. She was seeking help. She went to 10 different doctors and prescribers seeking help. Each one prescribed her a new medication until I think at the end of it, she was on 13 different medications, which were not interacting with each other well. She was telling people that she was having a mental break. She even put herself into a mental health facility where she would stay in inpatient treatment, and they kicked her out because they said that they didn't believe that she was having the problems she was having. Her husband was in huge support of her and was trying to help as well. She was making comments to mental health professionals that she was thinking about unaliving herself as well as her children. No one helped this woman. And sadly, one day her husband left for like 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that, to go run an errand that she asked him to do. And while he was gone, she unalived her own children and then attempted to jump out the window and unalive herself. Unfortunately, she did not unalive herself. And she is now alive and paralyzed.
You said fortunately she did not unalive herself, or unfortunately?
I meant to say fortunately.
Okay, sounded like you said unfortunately she did not unalive herself.
Unfortunately, or fortunately.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to bring clarity to that.
Yeah.
It's a heartbreaking case. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
She is paralyzed, she is in a wheelchair, and she is facing murder. And her lawyers asked to do this in 2 separate trials. I'm not sure about the legality of it and why they were arguing that, but the judge did not allow that. It is going forward as a murder trial. And it is a travesty. Her husband is still very much in support of her. He is in fact trying to raise money and help her fight her case. And Rosemary Scapicchio has gotten involved and is helping on the civil side of things. And
because they're suing the doctors. Yeah.
So really interesting case. People are very split on it because at the end of the day, I saw a comment that was posted on what you put on Twitter that was like, yeah, but she could have not unalived her children. That person doesn't understand what postpartum psychosis is. If they're saying those comments,
she did everything right. She did everything right. She did everything she was supposed to do. She did everything right. She was mistreated by the medical system, and a tragedy occurred, and it is their fault. And the fact that she's being prosecuted for murder is horrific. It is horrific. Denise, we know Denise. I did a ton of research on this case. We talked about it on the show. I'm really familiar with it. I read the New Yorker reporting. I've read a lot of the reporting around it. How
is my summary biased is what I'm trying to figure out.
She sought treatment. She got over medicated and her psychosis spun out of control, but she did everything right. And the most tragic thing possible happened. And she should not be being prosecuted for murder. So yeah, it was talk about a bad cocktail of meds. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I did want to, someone just reminded me of something, going just back to the Mandy Matney thing for just a second. I did find it interesting that in the past couple of days, Eric Bland, who is the lawyer that she and Liz team up with on their Cup of Justice podcast, is stepping down from the podcast. Did you see that?
No.
He was like, he put out a statement and he just said, it's time to focus on my legal practice and, my speaking tours and things like that. It was kind of vague, but I found it interesting that Eric Bland stepped down from the show this week.
What's the show?
It's called Cup of Justice. It's Mandy Matney, Liz, and Eric Bland. Eric Bland was responsible for, he was the defense, or I don't know which, he's usually a defense attorney, but he was representing clients who were screwed over by Alec Murdoch for financial crimes, and he won. And Eric Bland, I believe, is responsible for the financial stuff coming into the trial. Not that he was responsible for it, but because he sued Alec Murdoch, that all came to light as well. So Eric Bland had a huge part of this case as well. I find it really interesting that he's stepping down from the podcast.
I know another journalist who was supposed to work on a project involving Mandy Matney, who stepped away from that project as well. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of my questions have to do with stuff I've heard from journalists behind the scenes, and I don't want to I don't want to get too much into that, but if there's something that I can't see or hear, then someone says you're confusing Mark Tyndall with Eric Bland. Mark Tinsley. Oh, I don't know.
Eric Bland was involved in those cases. I'm not confusing. I know the difference between the two. Eric Bland was involved. He may not have been one of the lead attorneys, but he was involved in bringing those cases to light, as far as I understand it. Okay, let's see.
Let's talk about court. Let's talk about
Yeah.
court from yesterday, because I have about 19 minutes left before I have to go, because a meeting was put on my calendar just as we started taping this.
All right, take it away.
So yesterday there was a very short hearing. It was a status hearing in O'Keefe v. Reed and Restaurants. Rosenberg and Seligson appeared for Karen Reed, and Rosenberg, I think, is the lead on this case. We saw Diller, we saw Buck, we saw the bar's attorneys. Everybody reported that there are no more non-appearance issues for depositions. Karen Reed has taken 6. And a portion. I think that's the Michael Proctor one. Mm-hmm. And they have 9 more scheduled for the discovery period, which ends in mid-August. The Waterfall has 3 scheduled. They've been attending all the ones that have occurred. I believe that Diller and Buck said they have depositions scheduled for every single day that remains in the discovery period. Mm-hmm. And the bars were, all the parties were asked if they plan to file a dispositive motion. Now, dispositive motion would basically be a motion asking the judge to dismiss some or all of the case. The bars indicated that they likely would. They just haven't written it yet. And the Reed team was like, we haven't decided. I mean, there are going to be dispositive motions in this case. Don't get me wrong. That's going to happen. And there was an issue at sidebar that Diller wanted guidance on. It had to do with a privilege log and disclosure. And Judge Gilday was basically like, you guys can have some more time to work that out between yourselves and then file something. So anyway, I would love to hear what you think was the big takeaway from this, because I watched this hearing and I was like, that all seemed very normal. That seemed like a normal civil hearing to me.
Well, one of the takeaways I had is that the restaurants are just like, yeah, but everything's fine. That's cool. Like they're just like, we're fine. We're good. I found, like Rosenberg was, listing out, he was like, we've done one partial discovery, speaking of Michael Proctor. I don't think they're going to get through the depositions by the deadline. That's one of the things. Also, what I found interesting, and this is the thing that I can't really talk about because we don't know what happened. I wanted to ask you, what do you think happened in that sidebar? So Diller at the end of the meeting said, oh, hey, Judge, how do you want us to handle the communication about what we talked about in sidebar? And the conversation at the end was that Rosenberg was like, well, I don't feel like this is a huge emergency. We're happy to keep talking. Like I'll talk to Mark Diller right now and work this out. And Diller was the one being hesitant. And then the judge was like, yeah, you guys go work it out. I don't ever foresee this becoming an emergency. What do you think they were talking about at sidebar?
I believe they were talking about the disclosure from Karen's phones, because they mentioned a privilege log. And the privilege log is basically the documentation of why certain things were removed because of privilege. Right. So I think that's what they were talking about, because Diller brought it up. It's clear he wanted something that he felt like he wasn't getting. And it was very clear that Rosenberg was like, we're still talking about this. Don't. That's what I think it was. Did you think it was something else?
No, that's what I was thinking too. And I think that this fight for the phones is actually going to become important to a lot of these cases. And I'm really interested to see what Doolin hasn't put out any kind of
maybe today.
Yet.
Maybe today. You never know.
That would be really interesting.
I really want this order. This is something I've been waiting for, Mel, is this order.
Yeah, I know. And I also, I was listening to some of Peter Tragos's coverage of it, of the hearing, and he was talking about, the other thing that I did find interesting, and it took me a minute because I didn't know what it was when it was asked, but dispositive motions. Yeah, the judge was like, any dispositive motions, and they were like, yeah, maybe. Peter Tragos is like, yes, absolutely, there will be dispositives. 100%. Right.
There are always dispositive motions. There's never not dispositive motions. Yeah.
But the interesting thing that will arise from those dispositive motions are many. They are vast. It could be that the plaintiffs decide to take some of the stuff off the table that they're suing for. It could be that once they've gotten through these depositions, then they see what they have. They realize I would love to see what would happen if one of the parties asked for a summary judgment in this case, because that's kind of what Pam's attorney Matt is doing in New Hampshire. He's asking for a summary judgment, as far as I understand it, because they can't agree. And so a summary judgment would mean the judge just makes a decision, because the two parties can't agree that, the plaintiffs are saying that she killed John, and the defense is saying, no, she didn't, and we can prove it. And so if you can't get there, and then does it go to mediation, or do you ask for a summary judgment? Like, what do you think is going to play out here? Because wait, hold on. Let me add one thing to that. Sorry, before you answer. Because it seems to me like the plaintiffs are trying to prove that Karen Reed was on a mixture of drugs that interacted with the alcohol, and that's how she killed John. But even if they still prove that, they can't prove that she hit him with her car.
Yes.
So what?
So I just want to hold on one second. I want to say here about, and I want to just address the Andrea Yates thing for a second. Andrea Yates had a husband who would not let her get the psychological help she needed, the psychiatric help she needed. He was told to, in no circumstances, leave her alone with the children, and he did anyway. Andrea Yates was severely mentally ill and had a husband who believed that she could essentially just run it off. So I would really encourage you, if you're going to compare the Clancy case to the Andrea Yates case, the huge difference there is that Clancy had a huge support system. Andrea Yates did not. Andrea Yates was also very ill, so they're similar in that way. But Clancy had a huge support system, did all the right things. She was a health professional herself. Her husband was very supportive, and she was failed by doctors and practitioners. So anyway, in civil cases, judges always ask for alternative dispute resolution, which is clearly not going to happen here. He brought it up at the beginning, and it was a clear no. And that's when you go to mediation. That's when you talk. I think the dispositive motions, the ones that are most likely to be successful, are from the bars, because if they can't, in any discovery, prove that Karen was served X amount of drinks that would have made her blood alcohol Y, then they could file dispositive motion and say, there is absolutely no evidence here of our culpability in anything. And what's most interesting to me about the civil case is that the bars did not settle, because in every case like this I've seen, they're the ones who have they have insurance for this exact thing. They are bonded for this exact thing. And the insurance companies will usually be like, yeah. We want it out. Let's just write a check for $500,000 or whatever and get out of this fucking thing. And the fact that they're not settling tells me that they know that there's no proof in discovery to be had that they overserved Karen Reed. So, they, I think, are the most likely to prevail. But dispositive motions, as you mentioned, could also be for some claims, not all claims. So, the O'Keefe's might file something retracting one of theirs, or Karen could file a dispositive motion saying, we want to go to court to have them prove the crash didn't happen, but since we need to get rid of the alcohol part of it or whatever. I mean, that's probably not exactly accurate, but they can file dispositive motions for some. I know the bars are going to file them. There's just no way they won't. There's no way they won't. And Karen will too. Yeah. Karen will too. I mean, everyone tries to get their case dismissed. My husband was just involved in a lawsuit. He filed many dispositive motions. He filed motions for summary judgment. Ultimately, it settled. He won. And he told the whole story on the Patreon after show for Crime Writers On. That's dropping on Monday if you want to hear it. So yeah, it's one to watch. I mean, like I've said this week, this is the highest stakes case of all the litigation going on right now, of the 4 or 5 cases that are going on right now, because this is the case where if Karen Reed loses, it is technically true to say she was found guilty of killing John O'Keefe in a court of law. So this is the important one, and this is the one we should all be paying attention to.
Yep, agreed. And I just want to say thank you. Hold on a second. Where did it go? Where did it go? God, we have a lot of comments. I want to correct the record in a second. Holly and Johnny gifted 5 Something's Off memberships. Thank you so much. That is so generous of you. If you got one of those memberships, please remember to renew it when your time is up and let us know you got one. I just want to say everyone is saying in the comments that I'm confusing Tinsley and Bland. I am not confusing Tinsley and Bland. The Fall of the House of Murdoch. I'm reading this from a local article that was published in, I can put it on the screen. Hold on a second.
Hold on. I don't disagree that Aiden's criminal case is the most important this time. It is. I'm saying of the civil litigations, this is the one to watch. Yeah. And I will be covering Aiden's case in person on Monday.
This article, which was written by a local reporter in South Carolina, as I understand it, ABC 7, KRCR. Did you know the fall of the House of Murdoch began with an investigation into an insurance settlement? And did you know it was fellow attorney who turned over his findings to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED? And that attorney is Eric Bland. So you can tell me that I'm getting it wrong, but just maybe go Google it first, because I'm not getting it wrong. Eric Bland I think he's an amazing attorney. I love him. He was my favorite part of the Cup of Justice. The only reason I ever listened was because of Eric Bland. He's a good man. He fights hard for his clients. Go look him up. He's very interesting. And I'm very curious as to why he stepped down. I'm behind. What the fuck are we talking about with J7 and Kane? Ugh, I can't watch that shit. Yeah, well,
we didn't watch it either. I watched it through Jolene Lunzer's show. So
if we all believe in Santa Claus, Doolin will do the right thing, Emily said. Hi, Emily C. Apparently Valhalla was here as well. Hi, Valhalla.
Hi, Val.
Okay, let's see. Rebecca, I think I'm gonna stay on for a little bit.
Yeah.
You cool with that?
Just to put a cap on the Mandy Matney thing. Let me tell you what I do know. Yeah. I do know that she's been claimed to be stalked and harassed by lots of people, including another true crime podcaster who has a history of it. I also know that she said that's why she doesn't feel safe going into certain places. I also know that the judge didn't believe that argument because she makes so many social posts in public places doing things. Yeah. I also know he didn't believe it because she was celebrating not having to go to the subpoena by eating cake. I also know what she says on her show. I would like to know something else that isn't the judge said or Mandy said version of it. Please feel free to shoot me a link at somethingsoffpod@gmail.com that you feel will give me the information I need to understand Mandy Matney's position better as to why she didn't simply show up for one of these subpoenas. For one of these depositions. So if you can send me that, I'd really appreciate it. Please don't be I'm not trying to be combative or contrarian. I am legitimately curious. I want to side with the journalist here. I'm just being skeptical about it, as I believe we should be about lots of things. So anyway, I gotta go. Wait a minute. I give you MTV VJ vibes. Fun.
Did you start watching the Scott Peterson documentary yet?
No, not yet.
I watched most of the first episode last night. Rebecca, it's so good.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it this weekend. I promise.
It's so good. We're going to do a members only stream on Scott Peterson, just so you know. It's coming.
Okay. All right. Next week sometime. All right. I will see you guys later. Have fun in the rest of the stream. And don't say anything bad about me that I wouldn't say about myself.
I'll see you this weekend in person. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see. Hi, everybody. Hi. This is already, we had a lot to talk about, I guess. We came into it being like, we don't really have much to talk about, but here we are. Let's see. I want to go through some of these comments. The Andrea P.A. Yates case has haunted me to this day. Yeah, I think a lot of people are haunted by the Yates case. I think that we can look at, so what I've started to realize, and this is partly because of the work that I did on Pam's case, but partly because of the Menendez brothers and Scott Peterson and Michael Peterson and Pam Smart, Andrea Yates, all of these cases, we really, really messed some stuff up in the 80s and 90s as far as judging these cases, I think, personally. And I remember, this was like when tabloid media really started like amping up, as in my opinion. The National Enquirer, Star Magazine, Hard Copy, what else? There were so many programs that were, Cops. Like, think about the sensational Cops was a fantastic show, honestly. It was, and I consider it our first reality show, even though The Real World was like the first real reality show, but Cops was a reality show. And we just started really sensationalizing crime in the 80s and 90s. And when these court cases, when we were able to actually watch an entire court case play out on television, the way that we cover it now, like we are sitting here and covering these cases in real time. And back then we all were sitting around a television and watching it. I think that we have to take a look at these cases again. I think that we have to go back. We have to use modern science. I don't know if anybody, I don't want to get into it too much because Rebecca and I are going to talk about it, in members only. But the Scott Peterson case, they are laying out the evidence that shows that he didn't do this. And they did a very good job of it in the documentary last night. And one of those pieces of evidence relies heavily on modern science that one of the experts in the original case didn't. Here's what I'll say. One of the experts in the original case, one of the experts for the state, for the prosecutors, was a tidal expert. And by tidal, I mean TIDAL. So the way the tides work in the San Francisco Bay. He testified about where the bodies were found and where Scott Peterson put his boat in the water and how, that's where the bodies would have been. And that's why they washed ashore where they did. But unfortunately for his testimony, he used none of his experience with tides to come up with that expert opinion. He used wind. And that's fascinating to me. And we now have, like, they were showing the graphics of how the tides work and how basically our systems can now calculate how the tides move and how they move through and around things. It's like that. All very interesting. But my point, I'm sorry I'm congested this morning. I said this at the beginning of the stream, but we're now getting the smoke from Canada here in the DC area. And it's causing me a lot of issues. So I'm sorry if I sound congested and I'm coughing, but I'm trying not to do it so much on mic. As I say that, I have to cough. Hold on a second. I'm going to put you on mute. Okay. I say that we should be taking another look at some of these cases with new science. That's why Pam Smart has gotten a hearing, because of a new study, new science in this area of wiretaps and confirmation bias and things like that. So I know everybody gets up in arms about some of these older cases because we cannot separate our brains from what we viscerally remember about these cases. But what we remember about these cases is what the news media, the sensationalized news media, told us at the time. And sometimes you cannot let that kernel of emotion leave your body because you believe it wholeheartedly. But we're smarter now, and we look at things with a critical eye, in my opinion. And we have access to technology and science that we didn't have in the 80s and 90s. I think it's super important to look at cases like the Menendez brothers, cases like Scott Peterson, the way the judges ruled in these cases. 3 of the main points in Pam's habeas, which I went over the other night, is that were the judge being wrong, and jury instructions being wrong, and law being wrong. And nobody questioned it because a judge said it. So I really feel like we need to go back and look at some of this stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Hold on a sec. Not just that the bars didn't overserve, but there is no causal connection to JOK's injuries. Summary judgment will be quickly filed. I agree. Morning, law girls. Let's see. Diller was lurking around Cosgrove after court, according to Grant. I find Diller to be a fascinating, weird guy. When I saw that picture the other day, I think it was Bob Alessi. It was a video of Bob Alessi making arguments to Bev, and sitting right next to him in the courtroom in trial 2 was Mark Diller. And I'm just like, this guy has been working on this and planning this for a really long time, and he's not doing a great job for somebody who's been working on it and planning it for a really long time. Yeah, Holly and Johnny said, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you. Please do. It helps us with our algorithm. We've got like almost 900 people in here right now. So everybody go like, or if you're on your way in, go hit the like button. TC Nerd, I agree with you. It's interesting that Diller is trying to tighten up the intoxication angle with other medicines. How on earth are they tightening up the car meets John angle? They're not. They can't. They just can't. So I don't even know why we're here. Why are we doing this? It's a waste of time and money. Okay. I watched Jolene yesterday. I was dying. I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I have to do everything in bits and pieces when it comes to all of that chaos and drama, honestly. Karen got her case to the federal court. Actually, Karen didn't get her case to the federal court. It was the Ham defendants who wanted it to be in federal court. I don't think it should be in federal court. I would really like to have access to those proceedings. And I think the reason why the Ham defendants or the Ham plaintiffs, can't remember. I think why Higgins Albert McCabe pushed it to federal court because they don't want anyone to know what happens in the courtroom. And that bothers me. Yes, Tinsley represented the Mallory Beach family. Let's go, lesbians. Thanks, Amanda. PSA, have bias, be biased. Yeah, I think. And just so you guys know, this is off topic, but so the schedule coming up for our next week is going to be a little bit different. Normally we do our doubles on Monday, so we'll do like a Monday morning stream with y'all and go over whatever's happening in the court cases, and then we do our Crossroads members only Monday night. Rebecca and I will both. I'm traveling to New Hampshire this weekend so I can be in court at the Pamela Smart hearing on Monday. And Rebecca's going to be traveling to Boston to go to Aiden's hearing that's happening on Monday. And the hearing for Aiden is because he filed a motion to dismiss. So it's like the mega motion to dismiss his criminal case. So our plan right now is that once we are out of court at some point in the day, we're going to do a stream to update everybody. It's probably going to be a pretty heavy, like in-depth stream. I will be sitting in court along with some documentary filmmakers who are doing another documentary on Pam. And I'm hoping to stream. From the courtroom. My hair is crazy. I can't deal with it. I'm hoping to stream from the courtroom on Monday. I have a media pass, so I'll bring my setup with me, and hopefully I'll be able to stream from the courtroom. They're going to be making arguments. This is basically a summary judgment situation in Pam's case because the two sides cannot agree. Matt has made some really good legal points. Everything is based in New Hampshire precedent, New Hampshire either Supreme Court precedent or regular New Hampshire law. And other cases, he cited some really good cases. The state so far hasn't been able to combat, and like they haven't been able to argue. They've just said, she's tried this before. Let's just dismiss it. That's basically their argument. So I am hoping that being in front of a judge, just one judge instead of a panel for the governor's office, I'm hoping that this judge, who seems kind of young, I want to say he's like in his 40s. I think that's a really good thing because it means that he's not tainted by this bias that some of us older folks have. Like I was just talking about for these cases in the 80s and 90s, we remember them. We remember viscerally what happened and how we felt about it and how we felt about the person. And why we felt that way was because the media was pushing narratives. They still do that. But back then, we didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones. We could only go with what our gut was telling us. And that was based on what the news was telling us, local news, national news. So the idea that this judge he was probably alive when this happened, but he was probably, like 5-10 years old. So he doesn't remember it. I think that's a really good thing. To me, it feels really hopeful because anytime Pam has gone to New Hampshire to face the state and to deal with those people who have been around for a really long time, they've given her a really raw deal. They've completely dismissed it all the time. They barely even look at her filings. At one point, she filed an over 700-page petition for commutation, and they took 3 minutes. They didn't even look at it. That commutation included letters from, the warden of the prison that she had spent decades in, saying this woman should not be here. So I'm hoping that we have an impartial judge who is able to look at the facts and the arguments and who says, yeah, this should move on and there should be an evidentiary hearing at least. I mean, do the due diligence, So let's see. Let me look at some of these. Oh, by the way, Melissa, thank you so much for the tip, honey kid. I appreciate that. I'm traveling to New Hampshire. We're driving up, so the gas money helps. We're also having, to stay in a hotel, so all of that stuff helps. But I feel really compelled to be there because I've been working on this case for so long. Bland represented the dead housekeeper's family. Yes, I believe that is true, but he also brought to light the financial crimes because he sued. I told my husband that I need to go on a road trip from Wisconsin to go to Turtle Boy, Holly said. Holly and Johnny. The original Murdoch Murders podcast is still available online. It's absolutely astonishing and well worth listening to. I agree. I was a big Mandy Matney fan. Anytime a journalist sticks their neck out and goes full in to try to get the truth out there, I appreciate that. But it's how we handle the media attention and the celebrity that comes along afterward, because you become a target for sure. One of the reasons why I was unable to, I've talked about this before briefly, but in the second season of the In Between podcast, when I covered the Veronica Rodriguez story, I uncovered in my research and investigation on that case what appears to be a pretty well-known and active PDF file, SEX trafficking ring in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania, that includes law enforcement. I wanted desperately to dive into that and drill down. And I was talking with several victims who were too scared to go on record. But I was talking to ex-cops, victims, and was really wanting to tell that story. But I didn't have any financial backing. And I was warned repeatedly by people in the know that if I try to uncover that story, that I was going to be a target, which I'm willing to accept, but only if I have the financial backing to be able to fight that. And because I couldn't tell the story properly. I really tried. I went to several production companies. I went to independent media source, like outlets who put money into journalists and whose stories, like the stories that need to be told. But I didn't get any of those contracts. I didn't get any of that money. Oh, thanks for the tip, Priscilla. Appreciate you. Thanks for the wish to have safe travels and good luck to Pam. So, that was, I want to tell that story. I still want to tell that story. But in order to tell those stories, you have to have financial backing. Sometimes you have to be either working for an organization, a big organization, like, the Boston Globe Spotlight team is a perfect example of how they tell those stories, like those hard stories to tell, where you need protection from the powers that be. And I live in Maryland. So traveling to Pennsylvania, interviewing people, it all costs money. Recording, editing, getting sources, getting legal help, getting experts, all of that stuff costs money. So, Mandy was able to tell that story because she was building an audience and because she had in the beginning a local entity behind her, the paper that she worked for. She was given, that was her job, to tell that story. So she was protected by their legal department. She was protected by all those people. When she started getting bigger and having an online platform and making money independently and was able to leave her news organization, she had to come up with her, her legal help and her legal protection on her own independently. And so I think the case is nuanced. I think that there is some nuance in what's going on with Mandy Matney, but it is difficult as a journalist to tell these stories when you don't have financial and legal backing. Now, I know that Matt would help me if I needed his help, and even if I didn't have the money, which I would hate to put him in that position. But telling a story like that about traffickers, especially with what's going on in the, with the Epstein files and everything, is a scary proposition. Julie K. Brown, who was the journalist who has been tirelessly working on the Epstein case and reporting on it for decades, she constantly gets unalive threats. She's in the Epstein files as somebody that they need to take care of, basically. So it can be really scary as a journalist to tell these stories. So I want to make sure that you guys understand. I give Mandy Matney her props. The links that she went to talk about the Micah Miller story as well. I think that it takes a lot of guts to do what she did. So let's see. I'm going to go through some comments. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I was not mixing it up. I've listened to their podcast. I know Eric Bland was involved. That's one of he talked about winning those cases, and I don't know why people are saying that I was mixing it up, but I'm not. Thank you for saying that. Emily said, I can't wait until suddenly Celebrite's timestamps are perfectly accurate, and I trust Reddington of all people to call it out. You're talking about Ian Whiffen testifying in the Clancy case, I think, Emily? Yes? Let's see. The Scott Peterson documentary is what I was talking about, Melissa, and it is on A&E. It's a little bit difficult to get to. I had to sign up in order to watch it last night when it premiered. There are 2 episodes. I think they're each 2 hours long. I had to sign up for a Philo membership, like a 7-day free trial. That was the only way I could watch it as it aired last night. But I think you can restream today on the A&E app. I don't know if you have to pay a membership for that though, but it's A&E, and it's called Scott Peterson New Evidence. Yeah, I don't know, Mal Speranza. I find the whole situation really odd. I do think she is scared. I think she has a right to be scared. It could have been that her lawyers may have advised her, and she might have been listening to her lawyers. I don't know. The Scott Peterson doc is on A&E. Let's see. All right, a bunch of questions about Scott Peterson. I agree with this, that Mandy Matney is to the Murdoch case as Turtle Boy is to the Karen Reed case. Totally agree. Let's see. TC Nerd said, I sometimes fall asleep to Dateline streaming. I woke up with the Peterson case and the interview with the fisherman detective. Very interesting, right? Just B said, I'm sad he's leaving the podcast, but Seidel and Parker's have made his life hell filing complaints. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, he's been such a huge part of Cup of Justice. And I love like I said, one of the reasons why I tuned in was to listen to him speak. McMartin preschool case, West Memphis 3 case. Melanie Fox. I agree, Mel. I remember Andrea Yates. I was young. I remember everyone was happy to villainize her. Think about, I don't know if you all remember the Darlie Routier case. I covered that on the In Between podcast. So I did like a Cliff Notes, like sort of a breakdown of the case. And then I interviewed Darlie's sister. Darlie's on death row for murdering her 3 children, or 2 of her boys. And there is direct evidence, DNA evidence that they are testing right now, and actual evidence in the case that was not presented to the jury that exonerates Darlie Routier. And my entire life, up until a few years ago, I was like, that cold ass bitch in Dallas. I lived in Dallas when this happened, and I think I was 17 or 18 at the time. And so we all thought Darlie Routier was a monster who unalived her own children. And we thought she was disgusting. We hated her. We were glad to hear that she was on death row. I was wrong about that case, the same way I was wrong about Pamela Smart's case when I was a kid. We have to go back and look. If I can look at it and be like, wow, Mel, you got it wrong because of what I was told and the way that I was told to feel as a kid, like, we just have to go back and look at these cases. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can disagree with me. You can say that Darlie Routier is guilty. You can say Pam Smart's guilty. You can say Scott Peterson is guilty. But at least go back and look, and don't just say that from what you remember. Go back and look. Go back and investigate. Go back and research. Go back and listen to the new evidence. We really have to look at these cases. Court cases in the 80s and 90s were just a shit show. I know that not just because of Pam's case, not just because of Darlie's case, but I'm also investigating this case for season 3 of The In-Between about the Sunnyside Grapist, who was a prolific serial predator in the late 80s, early 90s in West Virginia, who had 30 victims. And the man they eventually accused of the crime was actually a friend of my partner's family. So I know a lot about this case. He was convicted and there was no evidence. There's no physical evidence to convict him. He's been in prison for 25 years. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm investigating it, but it went through 2 trials the same way that Karen Reed's case did. It was a mistrial because the judge in the case had ex parte communications with the prosecutors in the case and advised them on how to best do their closing arguments so that the jury would understand that this guy was the guy. That came out after the trial. So they called it a mistrial. It should have been just done. They had another trial happen, and in the second trial, they really limited the evidence that could be let in. But there was no DNA evidence. He was actually excluded from the DNA evidence that was found at 4 different scenes. They only had 4 of the victims, or 3 of the victims. Off the top of my head, don't quote me. 3 or 4 victims in the trial. And the lineups were screwy. They had victims like working with the police officers. They allowed one of the victims to watch his attorney speak to him in a lineup. There were so many things wrong with the case. There were so many things wrong with the court. And now that I'm going back, I'm like, this is a shit show, including one of the victims that they didn't bring. She was willing to be a part of this lawsuit, this criminal case. They didn't bring her in because she said that he wasn't the guy. And he is in prison. Like, we have to go back. The cases in the 80s and 90s were shit shows, honestly. I love cops. I know it's so stupid, but I love it. No, Ben, this is incorrect, my friend. I'm going to correct you on this one. The first reality show was the O.J. Simpson car chase and trial. No, actually, the first reality show was Pamela Smart's trial. It was one of the first fully televised gavel-to-gavel trials that ever appeared on television, well before O.J. Simpson. And it took over the world and the national news media. So I'm going to disagree with you on that one, although I do believe that we all sat around and watched O.J. and the car chase and all that stuff. Agreed on that. The O.J. case was in 94. Pam's case was in 90 and 91. The other Emily said, I watched a bit of the Menendez trial again last year and was shocked. There was real credible evidence that they were abused. The MSM wasn't really reporting then that when it happened. There were 2 trials in that case. And here's the fucked up thing. I agree with you, the other Emily. These kids were not just abused. This was torture. They were tortured. It was disgusting. If you want to know more about the Menendez case and what was happening to those boys, it is really difficult to hear and see and watch. But there are new documentaries out within the past couple of years about the Menendez brothers and what they actually went through. There's also a separate documentary that is about Menudo, the band Menudo, because the Menendez brothers' father was in the music industry. He was a huge, huge player in the music industry in California and around the world. Menudo was one of the bands that he had signed to his label, and he assaulted those boys as well. He groomed those boys as well. And those boys came forward. There were a couple of them that have come forward and have been fighting to help Eric and Lyle Menendez. So go back and watch those documentaries. It's supremely important. In the first trial, they were able to bring the SA and abuse allegations and information into court. And it was a mistrial because the jury couldn't decide if what the boys had done, if they didn't really have, they felt like they didn't have a choice in the matter. The only way out of that house and to escape the torture that their father and mother were putting them through was to unalive their parents. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that. But at this point, what I will say is whether they're guilty or innocent. I mean, I know that they did what they did. I don't fault them for what they did. But they've also been in prison for 30 years. So they've served their time. The second trial, the judge did not allow any of the abuse to come in, which it just disgusts me. It disgusts me. It was awful. So go back and watch those trials. They're fascinating. Exhibit Alley, thanks for the $10. Very sweet of you. Love both of you, but so glad the show is not ending for the day yet and you're staying with us a little longer, Mel. LOL. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I love you guys. It's so funny because the other night I only planned to be on for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because it's hard to do it by yourself. I don't know how Melanie Little does it for like 4 or 5 hours, 6, 7 hours, however long she does it. I don't know how Emily D. Baker does it. They just sit here and they talk and talk and talk and they deal, like they interact with the audience and everything. So when I was doing the Pam Smart, breakdown and Q&A session, I was like, oh, this is going to be like an hour and a half. It ended up being 3. It was very emotional. It was a really good, it was a good night. So, this is getting a little bit easier to just sit in front of a camera and talk to you guys. So I appreciate that you're all still here. Let's see. Crime has always been sensationalized, just not in the worldwide stage access that we have now. I agree with that. Well, in the 90s, though, when court TV, like the Pamela Smart case, I believe, don't quote me on this. I have it somewhere in my notes. The Pamela Smart case was the reason why court TV became what it is. Court TV, that was like their first big case. And then court TV exploded after that. Let's see. What is the name of the new doc? I assume you're talking about the Scott Peterson doc. And it's called Scott Peterson: New Evidence. So you've watched Just a Girl from the Six. I watched episode 1 of Scott Peterson. So many things were done wrong. Can't wait for episode 2 tonight. For the haters, ask yourself, if cops investigate and have done nothing wrong, why destroy notes? Yeah, evidence was destroyed in this case. That's so fucked up. Because I can answer that question because we're seeing it happen in the case with Pam and with Karen Reed and with Scott Peterson and with the Menendez brothers. And like I can go on and we hear cops say it and investigators say it when they get someone in their sights who they feel is the right person, they let everybody else drop to the wayside and they focus solely on that person sometimes. And then they take the evidence and they try to fit it into a narrative that says that person did it. That's what they did to Karen Reed. They did it for 2 trials. They're still trying to do it. So ask yourself that question. If they've done nothing wrong, why destroy notes? If in Karen Reed's case, if they've done nothing wrong, why didn't they create any logs? If they've done nothing wrong, why didn't they interview witnesses on camera? If they've done nothing wrong, it can go on and on and on. It's because they want to pin it on the girl. And so they have to find the evidence that will allow them to pin it on the girl. So when you're That's the wrong way to do it. You're supposed to find the evidence and eliminate people until you get to the person, if you get to the person. Let's see. How do we think the passed away, Lacey? I think what you're asking is, how do we think that Lacey was unalived? I have a theory. I'm sure a lot of people have a theory. I will never, in the Scott Peterson case, I'll never be able to get past the eyewitnesses who saw Lacey while Scott was already on his way with the boat to the marina. I will also never be able to get around how a man in broad daylight is supposed to pick up a body from the truck, or pick up a body from the boat that he's towing behind his truck in broad daylight in the middle of a busy marina, and put that body in the boat, and then detach the boat, launch the boat, take the boat out into the water. It's a 14-foot aluminum boat, and it's weighted down with him, several cement blocks, and a body of a pregnant woman, and he's supposed to pick her up and put her over the side of the boat with the weights without capsizing. If y'all have seen the other documentaries about Scott, the defense in that case, Garagos was the lawyer for Scott Peterson. He did several experiments with the exact same boat, and he took, like, a dummy. One of his paralegals went out with a dummy with the weights. They did everything that the prosecution was accusing Scott of doing, and every single time they did it, the boat capsized. It's not physically possible to do it the way they said he did it. It's the same thing with the Karen Reed case. There is no physical, all of the evidence in the Karen Reed case, medical, scientific, everything says that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. In Scott's case, all of the evidence points to Scott would have been unable to do what they were saying he was doing, but the judge wouldn't allow those boat experiments in as evidence. So the jury never got to see it. We're seeing it. But anyway, as far as how was Lacey unalived? My theory is that it was the guys that were burglarizing houses with the white van. They found that white van with a mattress in the back of it, with bloodstains on it, and it had been set on fire. They never, as far as I understand it, they weren't able to test the mattress because the fire had done too much damage to the DNA. There were witnesses who saw her fighting with those people in the van. She had her dog with her. If they grabbed her because she was about to call the cops and say, hey, you're robbing people's houses, that would be reason enough to shut her up and to grab her and throw her in a van. And then her dog has a leash and he runs back to the house and the neighbor puts the dog in the backyard. And then some of the new science is saying that Lacey wasn't unalived when the prosecutors originally thought she was. It was more likely that she was alive for weeks or months later. So that's my theory on how it happened. I don't know how y'all feel, but that's what I think. That's how I think. Mal Speranza. That's my theory on it anyway, from what I've seen. Quiet Things is in Baltimore. I'm in North Bethesda, and the sky is yellow and it smells awful here. Awful. They never interviewed people who saw her walking the dog. Just a Girl from the Six said, yeah, they disregard. There were several witnesses who gave their statements to the police, and the police never followed up. They never talked to the police again. Change your filter in your furnace if you have central AC. We did that. We actually had the HVAC people out last week, and they changed out all the filters. And it's been so hot here. Yesterday, it was 102 degrees, and the humidity, it felt like I was underwater. It was so bad here. I hate humid weather. I hate it. I don't know why I live here. I'm just kidding. Ben, if you are unfamiliar with the Pam Smart case, you can listen to the 12 episodes of the In Between podcast that I did in my first season, or a Cliff Notes version of the case. I did one of those the other night. It was about a 3-hour stream. I will post the link in the comments. Hold on. You can I break down the case. I break down the whole case starting from 1990 all the way up until today, and the habeas petition and the hearing that's happening on Monday. And I do some Q&A as well. So that's a pretty good Cliff Notes, I think. I'm putting it in the comments right now, a link to that video. Hence why we need cameras in the courtroom so we can say they got it right or hold on. Wildcats, agreed. Yes. Random YouTube watcher. What we remember about these cases is, in fact, our own bias based on what was given to us before we knew better with the experience we have. Exactly. Yeah, this is such an interesting case. I covered this case, Mal Speranza, on the In Between podcast. The Lucy Letby case is who I think you're talking about. There's a national nurse in the UK, a neonatal nurse, in the UK, who's been convicted 2 times of multiple murders of babies. The convictions are masking the huge problem in hospitals since their budgets were slashed. I agree. Go watch the Lucy Letby documentary. Go listen to the In Between podcast. I cover Lucy's case over there. Fascinating case. Again, I don't believe that she's responsible for what they're saying she did. Let's see. This is such a great point. Such a great point, Gravel Gertie. Sadly, if charged with a crime, unless you have millions to spend on a defense, you are in a precarious position like Pamela Smart, like many of them. I mean, the Menendez brothers, even though they got a raw deal, they had a great lawyer. Sadly, she passed away and she made some mistakes, but she was, for the most part, she was a fighter, and that was great. Karen Reed has had to spend over $1 million fighting 2 criminal trials. Turtle Boy, look what he's having to spend just to fight his criminal charges as well as these civil cases. Pam's family, she came from an affluent family, but they didn't have a ton of money. It was going to cost her in 1990 and 1991. It was going to cost $20,000 for an expert back then to deal with the audio forensics in that case. And she couldn't afford it. So because she couldn't afford that expert, they didn't get an expert. And that sucks, Let's see. I always know I'm on the right side of something if it's the opposite of what Nancy Grace thinks. Justin Earthbound Misfit said, I always know I'm on the right side of something if it's the opposite of what Nancy Grace thinks. I would probably agree with you on that one. Sadly, Nancy Grace was in the documentary that I did for Nightline for the Pam Smart case, and I thought it was hilarious because she actually made us look better. Like, Nancy Grace was making our arguments for us. It was so good. If you get a chance, go watch the Nightline episode. Don't pay attention to the mustard sweater that they put me in. I hate that stupid sweater. But go watch. It's really interesting. TC Nerd said, anyone have any idea what accident reconstructionist they're going to use? That's a great question. I cannot wait to hear about the expert testimony and depositions that are going to be coming into the civil cases. It's fascinating to me, and I really want to know. I'd love to know your thoughts in the chat, like what you think, what experts are coming in. Mark Diller believed they would have a conviction. That is why he took the case. Yeah, but he's dumb. He's not very smart, that guy, if that's what he thought. Let's see. Yeah, this was big. Aaron rambles on. What annoys me about Menendez is the prosecutor said in 2024 that he didn't think that it was wrong to say the boys couldn't be abused that way when men were prosecuted for it. Yes. All right, let's see. Wait, are you saying Law Girls? Are you saying that Diller was also at Aiden's Lindsay Gaetani alleged TRO violation trial? Diller was there? Is that what you're saying? Wow. Yes. Just a girl from the six says Nancy Grace thinks everyone is guilty because of her past experience. She is clearly biased. I agree. She's fired up. She has a lot of passion. She has some personal trauma, and she's made a career out of that personal trauma. Honestly, that's my opinion. When she started, like I get passionate and I yell, I raise my voice, I talk really fast, and people like that when I do that, but it's not going to be my MO all the time, because I'm a reasonable human being. But that's what's made Nancy Grace money. Looking at the camera and yelling and saying, you deserve to die in prison and all the shit she says. It's made her money. It's her brand. So sadly. Hopefully we will have cameras in federal court soon. Yes, we're trying to make that happen. I think that, I love listening to like the Supreme Court oral arguments, but we really need cameras in all courtrooms. We are at an age where we need cameras in the courtrooms. People need to have sunlight on this stuff. Only defense can move a case to federal court. That's what it was. Yes, I know. I think I don't know if it's going before the Supreme Court. I think it must be going before the Supreme Court that we may have cameras. And I think they're leaning toward that, which I think would be great. Oh, Law Girls said, kind of like when Kate didn't want me there for her case of witness intimidation this week. That one so fell under the radar. I feel like we all should have been talking about that more, but we weren't. And I was really appreciative that you guys were in the courtroom and I could at least get a glimpse or hear what was happening. So thanks for doing that. Law Girls, if you guys go subscribe to Law Girls, Not Attorneys. They work really hard to make sure that we have cameras in these courtrooms, and they're in New England, and it's super helpful, and I appreciate them. And it really helped the other day during the hearing between Alan Jackson and Cosgrove on Karen Reed's phones on whether she should get them back or not, that the only angle we had up until Law Girls was we were just staring at the judge the whole time. But Law Girls were sitting next to Cosgrove and Alan Jackson when they were at the podium to speak. And so we got that split screen, and then the trial channel, go follow them and subscribe to them as well. The trial channel then put that in split screen. So because of Law Girls and the trial channel, all women, I might add, we were able to see all angles in that courtroom and hear and see us side by side and figure out what was going on. And that it's so amazing and so helpful. Let's see. Yeah, the Senate's trying to pass the bill. You're right. I do think that they'll bring that they may bring that before the Supreme Court at some point, though. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Because I have a feeling there are going to be a lot of people who don't want that. Let's see. Casper is a phenomenal judge. Love that she called them House defendants. Yeah, Casper seems like a pretty good judge. I'm excited about that one. That's the federal case. I cannot wait to hear Beto plead his mega motion. And I'm a little jealous because Rebecca's going to be in that courtroom while I'm in the courtroom in New Hampshire. So I can't wait to hear. Oh, I can't wait to hear. But it's so important for me to be in Pam Smart's hearing. Let's see. Who do you think killed LP? LP. Lacey. Oh, I already went over that. Who I think killed LP. Rhonda, thanks for the $10. Enjoyed your channel. Heart, see ya Monday. See ya Monday. Thanks for the $10. I really appreciate that. They were the only thing on TV, and tabloid papers were everywhere. Yep. Let's see. Darlene said, it's awful how we have all been tricked or treated like children by the media and them coming to conclusions instead of reporting just facts. I agree. Journalism used to be, I think the problem is that journalism used to be fact-based reporting. And then along the same time as court cases became television, the news media started turning to opinion, and people started really confusing opinion news programs with the actual reporters reporting facts. And I think that's where we didn't make enough distinction when that first started happening. Okay. I'm going to have to jump off here pretty soon, guys. So I'm glad I was able to stay a little bit. Let's see. With our own cameras, Darlene said, we are seeing the world in a clear way now, not a one-way street of media coverage. We see things more clearly from all angles. I would agree with that. I actually wrote a novel about that many years ago called Viral. I will say a couple of things about that. Yes, I agree with you, except for when we use the cameras when we engage in fiction depersonalization syndrome, which I've talked about before, which is this idea that we all feel like we're on camera now as if our world, our life is a reality show. And I'm sure you all know this, but reality show, that's not real. People are acting for the cameras. And so sometimes we do the same thing in our real lives. So if you think about those videos where, well, actually, I think about like the Jess Machado situation when Aiden came on in the exit interview and they were arguing. I really felt like Jessica was performing for the camera, performing for an audience, trying to elicit a reaction that she wanted from her own audience. I feel that way sometimes when I see videos. Let me think if I can come up with an example. Oh, the Taylor Frankie. Is that her name? Taylor Frankie? Taylor... the one from Mormon Wives. So when her boyfriend, fiance, whatever, at the time, recorded her having that meltdown in her house where she threw a chair and it accidentally hit her child, we were only seeing one side of that. And he was acting behind the camera. We don't know what happened before that moment. I think a lot of people would bring up the Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation. I think a lot of people thought Amber Heard was acting when she was planting the cameras to capture what Johnny was doing. So we have to be careful. We have to discern fact from fiction if we can. I think of like the audio of Karen screaming at John on his voicemail and how the prosecution tried to make it seem like she was so angry at him that she killed him, when in reality, when the way I'm looking at it is, first of all, I recognize those kind of voicemails having grown up in New England. But the second part of that conversation is, would a person leave those voicemails and then turn around and murder him knowing those voicemails exist? I don't know. So we have to really like dig deeper and understand motivation and understand what happened before and after. And, so I do agree that our cameras are helping capture what's really happening sometimes, but we just have to be careful about it. Thanks, Sherry. Thanks for the tip. Appreciate you. Yeah. I remember Moran said, I remember SP was convicted by the public long before the jury ever got it. Not entirely convinced by the Tide data, but part 2 might have more info. Want to keep my open mind. Agreed. It was interesting. They showed a few. I turned around and I said this to Lindsay while we were watching the documentary last night. They showed some of the newspaper headlines and tabloids about Scott Peterson when the trial was happening, and one of the headlines was something along the lines of, "Is Scott Peterson just a jerk, or is he actually guilty?" And I can tell you that Pamela Smart and Karen Reed, they don't get those kind of headlines. So the world, the viewer is willing to question whether our confirmation bias is at play here by being like, oh, Scott Peterson might just be a jerk. He may not be guilty of this. He just seems like a bumbling dumbass, in my opinion. So he may not be guilty. He might just come off as a douche, right? They never said that about Pamela Smart. They don't say that about Karen Reed. They call them cold bitches who don't show any emotion and who deserve everything they're getting. They don't say, oh, maybe Pam Smart's just a jerk. Maybe that's just her face. Maybe she didn't do it. Maybe she's just a jerk. Never. She was called a vixen. an ice princess, a cold, calculated bitch. The people in my family think of her as a cold, calculated bitch. So I find it interesting when it's a man versus a woman, and women are notoriously get harsher sentences than men do in violent criminal cases. So I find it interesting that even though the media really tried Scott in the press before he got to trial, they also were like, maybe he's just a dummy. Maybe he didn't do this. They never gave that to Karen or Pamela or Amanda Knox or any of those women. Oh, thanks, Just Aunt B. If you haven't listened to the In Between podcast, please do. Mel did amazing on both Pam and Veronica's stories. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Please go listen. TC Nerd. No. New Hampshire, the state of New Hampshire really mucked up the process, and in the end there wasn't enough time, and so the judge ruled in a different way. So Pam was supposed to appear in person on Monday for her hearing. It would have been the first time, I think, in 30 years she's been in New Hampshire to appear in a court. And her attorney Matt put in the transport order with the clerk of the court, and it was in progress. And then on Sunday, this last Sunday, the state of New Hampshire made a filing. They put in a motion to keep her from coming to the courtroom because they said her attorneys didn't want that, which is a lie, which Matt called them out on and asked them to retract and change the motion. They then filed another motion 2-3 days later that was like, subsequently, we have discovered that the attorneys on her side actually do want her here, but we oppose it. And so the judge was finally like, well, it's kind of too late. So she's going to appear via WebEx, which is still the first time her face has been in a courtroom in, decades. So, but it's sad. She really wanted to be there. She feels very strongly that she should be allowed to stand in front of the state and her accusers and speak her mind. And that's sadly not going to happen for her, except she's going to be on WebEx, which I think is a partial win. Kimberly Tony, have you ever heard of the Dorothy Kilgallen story? I have not. If you want to let us know about it, you can tweet at us or you can send it to somethingsoffpod@gmail.com. Okay, we got to start wrapping this up here, people. Let me get through some of these comments. Yeah, Lindsay Clancy was on a very dangerous cocktail of medications. I can't believe that when I first started breaking that case down and I started breaking down what she was on and how often it changed. And I mean, I think a lot of you in the audience know that when you're on antidepressants, SSRIs, any of those kind of things, every single one of your prescribers says, do not stop this cold turkey. It can cause agitation. It can cause, unaliving thoughts. It can, all those things. And her doctors were just left and right cutting off the medicine and starting a new one with her, or overlapping other medicines that shouldn't have been overlapped. It was disgusting what happened. Canada Mom says, Eric Bland said on COJ this week, Cup of Justice, that he was exhausted by the bar complaints he is now getting by non-clients. I can see that being the case. Apparently Julie Albert didn't show up for her depo and no repercussions, Wildcat says. I had not heard that, but that is fascinating if true. Let's see. Chloe's mom says, Mel, do you think killed LP and her baby? Do I think who? I don't think Scott Peterson did, if that's the question. I don't. The evidence isn't there. There's no DNA evidence. He was supposed to have transported her body from his home to his truck, to the boat, to the marina, and the boat was in a warehouse. So 4 different locations, and there was not a speck of DNA in any of those locations. Not a speck. Not a speck. So no, I don't think he did it. And on top of that, he was supposed to have done all of that in broad daylight and driving the boat into a really busy marina where the people were there all over the place. Boats, everybody in the water. There were witnesses who saw him got in the boat who said that he didn't have anything in the boat with him, especially not a body. So no, I don't think he did it. Let's see. Speaking of West Memphis, did they ever test the DNA? I don't know the answer to that, Amy. That's a good question. We should ask Maggie. I think Maggie knows about that case pretty well. I have heard of Curtis Flowers. I sure have. Yep. Who did the Curtis? Was it Amber or Maggie? Curtis Flowers podcast. Oh no. Hosted by Matt. There was another one, In the Dark podcast. Curtis Flowers. I feel like Maggie was on that. But no, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Amber Hunt. Yeah. Madeline Baran did the Curtis Flowers podcast. It was such a good podcast. This is a great point, Mouse Speranza. The Lisk serial murderer is clearly psychotic, but no one thinks he should have been acquitted. So we need to find ways to legally distinguish that from Clancy's illness. Agreed, completely. Looks like Rebecca is still there with that picture in the back. Yeah, right there. There's Rebecca. And there's my in-between podcast, and that's Pam. That was awful. I always said she was innocent, Darlie Routier. I thought there was an intruder out the back alley in the sock. How did the sock get in the alley? How did the sock get in the alley, which for Darlie's case, and I talked about this on the In-Between podcast, she would have had to, her throat was injured by a knife all the way down to the cartilage. The only thing that kept her alive was that she was wearing a gold chain, and that gold chain caught the knife before it, I think it was her carotid artery. She couldn't have done that to herself. She also couldn't have sliced her own arm as deep as it was. And there was DNA found on the sock in the alley. So the prosecutors in that case were saying Darlie did all of this stuff. She unalived her 2 children and then ran, I think it was 180 yards or something like that, down the alleyway, dropped a sock, ran all the way back, didn't leave any other DNA in the alleyway, came back and then injured her own neck with a knife to that degree and stabbed herself. And then called 911. Or maybe they said she did that after she called 911. There's no way she could have done it. That's all I'll say. That's all I will say. A couple more comments here. Judge Gull in the Delphi case is the poster child for why we need to scrutinize judges rather than assuming they're bastions of justice. Mouse Brands said, I couldn't agree with you more. I'll be honest. I could not agree with you more. The other night, I think many of you who were there for the Pam Smart stream now fully understand why I am so skeptical of judges, because that judge did all the wrong things. And I will never forgive him for that. Emily C said, how embarrassing for the attorney. LOL. The judge is like, you're so bad, you're going to blow this. Yeah. I think, wait, what are you talking about? Was that the, are you talking about the federal case? Maybe. I don't know what you're talking about, Em. I do like Ben's point that OJ Circus was treated as entertainment. Yeah, that's what Pam's case was too. That's what I was saying. Like when I was talking about the case the other night, I used to skip school. I was 15 at the time. We would skip school and go over to the courtroom to try to get on camera. We would have 10 people in the living room gathered around a television watching the trial every day. People were skipping work. It was on every television at every bar in the state of New Hampshire, probably in parts of New England. and people love to hate her. There were people lining up for days to get into that courtroom, and it wasn't a huge venue. It was a tiny little town in New Hampshire. The Menendez brothers were tried before OJ the first time, and it was a spectacle, that case as well. Yeah, thanks, Breenan's Deviated Septum. Hit the like, folks. I'm getting ready to wrap this up. If you guys don't mind, please hit the like on your way out or in. The problem with Menendez's case is that abuse was not recognized as mitigating factor at the time. It wasn't. And the judge, like I said, he didn't allow it in the second case. And on top of that, back then, no one believed that boys could be abused in that way. Crazy. Oh, thanks for the $5, Amy. Appreciate you. When I was younger, I had male friends who called cops education TV what not to do. LOL. Yeah, do you guys remember that show Scared Straight? Oh my God, I love that show, and it terrified me. Okay, I gotta get through. I'm gonna miss some of these comments, and I'm very sorry. I'll try to look at them after the stream and get back to you all. The smoke and haze is gone from Mass as of yesterday. Yeah, it's over here now. It's in DC. My eyes are burning. My nose is stuffed. I'm coughing all over the place. It sucks. The problem is, hold on. He did have, that's what I was getting at, is that his, he was a dumbass. He was having an affair. Scott Peterson was having an affair with Amber Fry, and he had stupid messages. He did stupid things. It looked like he had a motive, the same way that they use the voicemails of Karen to say that she had a motive for John. His girlfriend did turn on him because he lied to all of them. And then, his family was trying to protect him. There was a line that was said in the documentary that I watched last night that really sort of rings true to me. When you're doing something stupid, when you're doing something maybe illegal, or you're cheating, or you're doing something like that, you're very reluctant to admit to it in the beginning. And that's Scott's MO to a T. He, on the day that Lacey went missing, he spent hours. He drove all around town. He did 4 separate interviews with the police. They didn't even record the first interview until the very last one, the 4th interview he did, which is the one they used against him in court to show his demeanor, which demeanor bullshit. He did a lot of stupid things. Scott Peterson is a dummy. I do not believe he's a murderer. Did you cover Hey Min Lee? I have not covered it, Gen X, though I've discussed it many, many, many times because a lot of my friends were involved in covering Adnan Syed's case and Hey Min Lee's murder. So I talk about it constantly with people outside of the podcast world, but I didn't feel like I needed to add my voice to the mix because it's just been covered so much. Crash daddies and Speedos. That would be amazing. Even I would enjoy that. This is a great point, Mal. We might have real justice if the state funded public defenders at exactly the same budget as the DA. Word. Or if the state would pay for experts, Hey, thanks for the tip, Lindsay. Appreciate you. Give Joe Paul another chance. Justice for Joe Paul. I think you mean Tommy Paul. He's our Tommy Paul. Now I have to watch just for the mustard sweater. Are we talking Dijon, spicy brown, or regular? We're talking JoJo. We're talking spicy brown. It was an awful color choice. The producers put me in it because, normally I wear black or gray, and they didn't want me to be wearing black or gray on camera. So they put me in this awful yellow mustard, spicy mustard sweater for the entire, only one of my interviews. The other interviews, I was wearing my regular clothes for the documentary. But yeah, hate that stupid sweater. I don't like the way I look in that documentary. Don't like it. If Karen didn't have money, she would be in jail today. It's sad that the courts have deep, deep pockets and most defendants do not. I wonder how many innocent poor people are in prison. Darlene, millions. Millions of poor people are in prison who don't deserve to be in prison or who weren't able to put on a defense to defend their constitutional rights as an American citizen. Let's see. Oh my God, that is so good. Nexus Lexus said, have you seen the insurance commercials from the UK with the meerkat? Mark Diller reminds me of the meerkat. I know exactly what you're talking about, and you are spot on. They did do me dirty with that mustard sweater. Thank you for agreeing with me, Justin Earthbound Misfit. Courtroom cameras for Chuck Grassley's 93rd birthday. Emily, we don't talk about politics on this show. This is why you need to let me mod so I can post LGNA's link. I would love to have mods. Rebecca doesn't want to have mods. So, we are partners in this. So I have to go with what she wants in this case. I would love to have mods and you would be the best mod ever. But I'm like, Emily, you have so much going on already. How would you even have time to be a mod for us? Honestly, you're doing so much good, important work. How could you even do it for us? Let's see. All right. I am going to be wrapping this. Oh my God, you guys. No, not Ruby Frankie, Taylor Frankie Paul. Yes. Taylor. It wasn't Ruby Frankie that I was talking about. It was Taylor Frankie in the video of her chucking a stool across the room and accidentally hitting her daughter. To me, it felt like her boyfriend was creating that chaos for the camera so that he could be the victim. Because lest we forget, she was locked in the garage and urinated on herself because she was locked in the garage and couldn't get out because he put her in there. She was very drunk. He comes off as more abusive in that situation to me. Monica, thanks for becoming a new member. Appreciate you. I knew Pam Smart. She is cold. Being cold does not make her a murderer, Colleen. I know her as well. I've known her for more than a decade. And she can be cold. So can I. My resting bitch face would get me convicted so fast. My angry face or my "are you fucking kidding me" face would get me convicted in a heartbeat. Just like it, like how we break down demeanor and how somebody is supposed to act when they're sitting in a courtroom accused of unaliving somebody. You cannot, until you are in that situation, know what your face is going to look like or what your demeanor is going to be, or if you're going to be cold. We cannot convict people on their demeanor. Ugh. All right. Let's see. Oh my gosh, you guys, there's so many comments. Oh, the judge who had ex parte convo with the attorney during closing arguments. Yeah, that blew my mind. And they still sort of mucked up the process of that. And this is going back to the Sunnyside Grapist case. The state mucked up the process with that one because the case should have been dismissed for judicial misconduct. But instead, they said it was a mistrial. And they moved to try him again. And the whole thing was screwy. And here's a really messed up thing. In the state of West Virginia, there is an appeals board. So if you file an appeal in the state of West Virginia, that board looks at the appeal and they decide if they want to take it on or not. Which means that if there's a majority on the board that doesn't want to take on a case, they just don't take it on. So you could file an appeal and it may never see the light of day. In this case, he filed an appeal and the judge who had ex parte communications was on the appeals board and he lost the right to even file an appeal. Make that one make sense. Okay. Getting close to the bottom here. I'll mod when I'm here. If I'm not, then you're just back to no mods. Like now, I'll wear Rebecca down. Do that. You talk to Rebecca for me. She's not listening to me. I think she wants to be different. And she thinks that it gets everything complicated. And I don't know. Talk to her. I honestly, I think I would like to have mods just because for certain things like this, like I want to be able to promote Law Girls. I want to be able to promote the trial channel. But when there's just one of us here, like there's two of us, so sometimes it's easier. You know, we have to go and find a link, drop it in, do all that stuff. So yeah, I understand the need for it. You guys don't have resting bitch face. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. My previous partner, my ex spouse, was an artist. I'll say that. And they would have shows where they would sell their art. And I was told I wasn't allowed to sit at the booth, even to like help out on breaks because my resting bitch face was so bad. I was ejected because I had resting bitch face. Anyway, okay, I gotta run, you guys. It's been 2 hours. And I appreciate you all. You have been amazing. You guys are seriously the most amazing audience. You gave me so much hope the other night when I was telling about Pam's story. I'll say this as I head out the door. Pam gets a lot of hate. If you go to WMUR, which is the main news channel in New Hampshire, and you look at any of the articles they've posted about Pam Smart, it could just be something as simple as Pam Smart got a hearing, right? There was one posted a couple of days ago. And you go to the comments section, it is the old and tired vitriol of this confirmation bias that they have in New Hampshire against Pamela Smart. I talked to Pam last night on the phone. She said something that was like kind of profound to me. She said, every time I present my case, or every time I petition for a commutation, every time I file a habeas or an appeal, everybody in New Hampshire sees me as a 59-year-old old woman who is just trying to change the course of history. And everybody still sees Billy Flynn as a 16-year-old boy. And she's not wrong about that. She's not wrong about that. I posted the link to the stream here in the comments. Maybe I can see if I can post it again. Here's another one. That's the stream I did the other night. But I have to say, you guys gave me a ton of hope, because there were a few of you in the audience who were like, oh, fuck her. She, is a schmurderer, all that stuff. There were a lot of you that were just open to listening. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that you can see the nuance of this woman has served her time, and this prison sentence is torture. I appreciate that so much. And I was able to talk to Pam about that and say, we had so many people watching and listening, and there was a lot of positive feedback. Outside of New Hampshire, there's always a lot of positive feedback. If Pam were being, if this hearing were happening in New York, where she has been housed for 3 decades, she'd probably be out tomorrow. But there's something about New Hampshire. The state of New York wants to let her go, but the state of New Hampshire has jurisdiction over her, and they won't let her go, even though she will sign whatever piece of paperwork you want to put in front of her that says she will never step a foot a day in her life in the state of New Hampshire going forward. They still don't want to let her go. And there are folks in the New York state government, corrections officers, ex-wardens of the very prison that she is in, other inmates, people who work in the prison, clergy people, people who work for the Innocence Project, people who work for prisoners' rights groups. All of these people believe this woman should be out of prison, and it's just the state of New Hampshire who disagrees. So I don't know how to get past that, but I'm hoping that this Monday is a start, and I'm hoping that we have a judge who is willing to look at facts as opposed to feelings and see what happens. So the next time you will see me and Rebecca will be on Monday. I will hopefully be streaming live from the courtroom, and Rebecca and I will meet up later in the afternoon to talk about everything that happened in our days. And I just appreciate y'all. So I'm going to end the stream here now. Have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Try not to breathe in the toxic smoke. Love you all. Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, allegedly. I'm Smile.
Happy Monday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie. Happy gay summer, Mel.
Happy hump day, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm not humping anybody. I'm Rebecca Lavoie.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I am Mel Barrett. Oh, no.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and my mic is muted.
Good morning, everybody. I am Mel Barrett.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and that's Briscoe.
And welcome to Something's Off, a true crime podcast where we swat the haters aside with our astute takes and humor and joy. And
The joylessness
I don't
of
give a
those
fucking
people.
miss. Blah.
Hags.
You hear it first in the break in the story. One little crack and the whole thing gets wary. A witness swears but the timeline bends. A smile too smooth and the trail just ends. Mel Barrett says, hold up, look again. Rebecca Lavoie follows every thread. If it feels too neat, then it's not the truth. There's a shadow line running through the room. Something's off, something's off. You can feel it in the bones. Something's off, something's off. When the facts won't come home. Something's off, something's off. And the case won't stay in place. Something's off. We're the ones who chase.
This is
Pull it,
literally
Jimmy.
because it's 100. It's been happening for the past day.
Oh, dear God. Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf is on the TV. Am I right? Everywhere's a hot spot when Dr. Wolf is on the TV. I'm sorry. This is very funny.
What are you laughing about?
Because you're just sitting there waiting for the video to start.
I was listening this whole time. You
Listening to what? You're not playing anything, and now you're frozen. God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me text Mel. Let me call Mel real quick. I'm going to call Mel.
No, I'm not answering your call. I'm not doing it.
I don't think.
Why is it? Oh, Jesus.
Maybe go back on the Wi-Fi.
I am back on the Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now? Can we do the show now? Should we do the show now? Rebecca? Rebecca, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Internet. Hello.
Hello? Hello, worldwide interwebs. Can you hear me? Let's do this. I have to look at my phone over here.
We're going to go members only.
Something's off. We're the ones who chase. Yeah, we're the ones who chase. Wait, did that witness just blink 3 times? Something's off.